Tom, lots of promises being made. Which ones sound the most realistic to you?
Well, it's interesting that the Labour Party has come forward with a policy that actually has some numbers in it. This is the first time we've seen that after quite a long time of silence. And it's a 25% tax, extra tax on the profits of those energy companies. And that would raise around £8 billion, they say. Now, the policy of freezing the cap where it is would cost £30 billion, their numbers, every 6 months. The IFS says it would run for at least a year, taking us to £60 billion. This is costing, month on month, more than furlough cost during the COVID pandemic. It's the most extraordinarily expensive policy. And one of the criticisms that we're starting to see of it is that a fairly crude freeze like this means that of that extra spending, much of it unfunded, of that extra spending, half goes to those of above average incomes. And is that the best way to spend tens of billions of pounds that, frankly, the country doesn't have? Perhaps not. So really what we're seeing here is that the Labour Party is coming forward with a policy. It's got people talking about policy, but might it be the most wise way to spend an enormous amount of money, a truly gargantuan amount of money? There are big questions there. For the Conservatives, on their part, however, Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak aren't being terribly specific about what help they would provide, simply saying they would provide some more help, but they'd have to wait and see what the situation was like when they got in, which isn't very satisfactory either.
Well, yeah, considering one's just been Chancellor and one is currently in government, sitting in the cabinet every day. Well, probably not. They all seem to be on holiday at the moment. You'd hope they'd have more idea.
You certainly would, but there is something that we could probably take a glint of light from, which is the Treasury is currently drawing up, they say, a number of options that a new Prime Minister could hit the ground running with on day one. The Chief Secretary to the Treasury, Simon Clarke, said last week that the Treasury was undergoing this preparatory work so that there will be options for the next Prime Minister. And also, of course, last week we saw this industry round table in Downing Street with the Prime Minister, with the Business Secretary and with the Chancellor. We didn't really see all that much come from it, but the dialogue had begun, and it's interesting that the people who were reported to have been leading this discussion before the Prime Minister joined, i.e. Nadhim Zahawi and Kwasi Kwarteng, the Chancellor and the Business Secretary, they're two big supporters of Liz Truss. And Liz Truss at the GBNews People's Forum event said that she would want to work with the industry to try and bring down prices. That seems to be something that this roundtable was leaning towards as well. We might see more in that space.